Hey, and welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange. This is Chelsea, and I'm so happy that you're here listening. I have been thinking about management training, which doesn't sound very sexy, but years ago when I was working in commercial construction, I hated management training, like hated it. And the different companies that I had worked with typically always brought in third-party facilitators to teach us leadership and management. And when I think back to how I was behaving in those like leadership and management trainings, I was awful. Rolling my eyes, crossing my arms. I'd be answering emails, not paying attention, checking my phone constantly because obviously the emails don't stop just because someone has decided that today is a training day. I was most definitely dismissive. I was flippant, probably rude. And I can remember sitting there thinking, like, these people have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know my job. They don't know how we operate. This is a waste of time. This is a waste of money. Give us bonuses instead. I remember one HR facilitator lady talking about the Pomodoro technique, and there's nothing inherently wrong with the Pomodoro technique, trust me. But at the time, I'm like thinking, like, this isn't going to help me. Like, what in the fuck are we doing here? Because what my life actually looked like at the time, like, I'm a senior project manager and account rep for a commercial construction company. If I wasn't on site, then I'm in the office before anybody else. I'm working on budgets and spreadsheets. I'm scheduling trades, managing clients, answering so many emails, putting out fires constantly. If I was on site, I'm running meetings, checking progress, coordinating the subs, and keeping the projects moving. And I think that a lot of people don't understand who are outside of the industry that you're not just managing one project. Any place that I ever worked, you were managing 6, 8, 10 projects at a time at various stages, of course. And each one has 16 different divisions to coordinate: electrical, mechanical, millwork, flooring, painting, so on and so forth. Everything has timelines. Everything depends on something and somebody else. Everything feels urgent because like the life cycle of the projects that I was working on were probably on average like 6 to 8 weeks. So it was hard and fast to say the least. You're constantly holding hundreds of moving pieces in your mind. And that is just work. Outside of work, I'm on the heels of my divorce. I had moved out on my own. I was lonely. I was drinking too much. Then in early 2019, I've talked about this before, but my stepdad was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And then there were hospital appointments and treatments and lots of driving back and forth and watching somebody that I loved disappear. And then he died in November 2019. Now, looking back, my stress levels were through the roof. I definitely had a couple panic attacks that I had no idea what was going on at the time. I wasn't sleeping. I was actually having allergic reactions on the way to work, thinking that it was something that I had eaten because I do have a peanut allergy, but like literally breaking out in hives driving to the office because of my stress levels. Not sleeping, using alcohol to manage stress. I was absolutely living in survival. I just didn't have like the language for it, obviously, that I do now. At the time, I thought I was just stressed, right? Everybody goes through this. Everybody handles stress differently. Now I know that my nervous system had been sounding the alarm bell for months, probably even years. So when someone walks into our office and starts teaching management, you know what I heard? Like, I didn't hear, oh, here's something that's going to help you. All I heard was, you're not doing your job well enough. You're dropping the ball. You're the problem. And of course, nobody said that, but my nervous system did. And that is what I've come to learn about survival. When your nervous system is carrying more than it has capacity for, it stops interpreting different situations objectively, and it starts interpreting them through protection. Your brain is constantly making predictions about what's happening around you, and its primary job isn't to make you happy and successful. Its primary job is to keep you alive. And when you've been under chronic stress long enough, your threat detection system becomes really sensitive. I think that psychologists sometimes call this neuroception, your nervous system's unconscious ability to scan for cues of safety or danger before we're even aware of it. So it will start filling in the blanks. It will assume a threat where there may not be any. And even neutral feedback feels like criticism. A question will feel like judgment. If somebody offers you any advice, then that's proof that you are failing and don't know what the fuck you're doing. Your boss asking for a meeting all of a sudden feels like you're getting fired. Like, what have I done? What's going to happen? Your partner asking you to load the dishwasher differently suddenly becomes, I'm doing everything wrong. And I still catch myself doing that to some degree, right? Like Kevin will ask me to load the dishwasher differently. And my first reaction isn't just, okay, thank you for the feedback. It is, oh, fuck, I'm doing it wrong. Another thing that I'm doing wrong. The dishwasher in this case isn't the issue. It's my nervous system. Looking back now, was I wrong about everything? No. Some of those trainings genuinely weren't helpful at all. Those facilitators didn't understand our industry. The content wasn't practical, but that's not why I reacted the way that I did, like a petulant little child. I reacted that way because I was already at capacity. I didn't have space for one more thing. And I couldn't separate, here's another perspective from you're failing, which of course there's a huge difference there. And I see this with my clients all the time. Someone gives them feedback and they assume they're in trouble or they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. If somebody compliments them, they're going to argue it. If somebody says something to them completely neutral, they can create an entire story around what the other person must have meant. And sometimes clients tell me that they can't retain information, or they think the coaching isn't working, or they feel like they, quote unquote, know this already. And sometimes people will immediately label themselves as ADHD because they can't focus or remember things. Now, I take a different stance on ADHD. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I also think that we've become really, really quick to explain away what sometimes can be a nervous system that is simply overloaded. Because when your brain is busy surviving, it isn't prioritizing learning. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's responsible for planning and learning, emotional regulation, and decision-making, is less available when the nervous system believes that you are under threat. And the body will always prioritize survival over growth, which means no productivity strategy or communication framework or leadership model, no coaching is going to land in the way that we hope if someone's nervous system has no capacity. And that's why my coaching always starts somewhere different. Before we optimize calendars, before boundaries, communication, confidence, we establish physiological needs. The necessary sleep, nutrition, movement, breath. Moments where the nervous system learns, I'm safe enough to stop bracing. Because you cannot build sustainable change on top of survival. And this makes me think about companies at large. Like I know that they're trying. I really do. But I think that we've inherited a model that no longer matches the world we're living in. We teach leadership before we teach regulation, communication before nervous system awareness, productivity before physiology. And then we wonder why people leave the training unchanged. I wish that every leadership training started with 10 minutes explaining what chronic stress does to the brain. And even before that, 5 minutes of breathing. So that when they get into the meat of the presentation or training, then our brains have a fighting chance of understanding what is being set out before us. Right? But if we explain to people why they are reactive, why they lose perspective, why they struggle to retain information, why they might misinterpret feedback, why curiosity disappears and they feel flat. Like if you don't understand the lens you're looking through, everything else gets distorted. Looking back at me in those meetings, and like I have like this perfect vision. I know what side of the table I was sitting in. I know what boardrooms I was sitting in. I can picture the facilitator, their faces. And when I think about that, I have a lot of compassion for the woman I was. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't resistant. She wasn't difficult. She was drowning though. And she genuinely thought that she just needed to push harder, head down, more discipline. I also have a lot of compassion for those facilitators because they were trying to help in the way that they know. They just didn't know what we were all carrying into that room. That's the biggest lesson that I've taken away from all of this. Before we ask people to lead better or communicate better or manage and perform better, maybe we should ask, does this person's nervous system actually have the capacity to receive what I'm trying to teach them? Because what I believe the greatest barrier to growth isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of safety. And those are two very different conversations. And like I said, I think about that version of me a lot. And for years I told the story that I hated management training because it wasn't good enough. And maybe some of it wasn't, but that wasn't the whole story. The bigger truth is that I didn't have the capacity to receive it. My nervous system had been carrying so much for so long that anything asking me to grow felt like criticism instead of support. And I wonder how many moments in our lives are like that. The conversations, how many opportunities, how many relationships, how many pieces of feedback, not because the other person got it right, but because our nervous system just couldn't hear it. And this realization has changed the way I coach, the way I communicate, the way I love the people around me. And most importantly, it's changed the way I look back at earlier versions of myself. I don't see somebody who is difficult anymore. I really do see somebody who is overwhelmed, somebody who was surviving, somebody who was literally doing the best that she could with the capacity that she had at the time. And I know that there are a lot of people walking around today who deserve that same compassion. And maybe that's you, or maybe it's somebody that you work with. Maybe it's your partner, your teenager. Maybe it's the employee who seems resistant to every new idea that you try to implement. And what if the question isn't, why won't they change? But what if the better question is, how much are they carrying? Again, two very different conversations. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope that this has resonated. I'd love for you to share this episode with anybody who you know that does leadership training or who schedules leadership training or has sat in leadership and management training and thought to themselves, like, what the fuck are we doing here? And know that in addition to like my one-on-one private mentorship programs and the groups that I offer, I also do a lot of corporate training. I go into companies and municipalities and townships, and I teach them about stress and how it shows up. I teach them about the nervous system and the stress responses, and I give them strategies to work with that are tactical and practical. Because I do not want to bore anybody with like another bullshit management training where like they take nothing away. Everybody gets significant takeaways from the trainings that I do when I go into companies. So if that's something that you're interested in, please reach out, and happy to have a conversation. In the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.